code here. And on start, I'm going to give him some armor. So I'm going to attach armor. This was not how this would be done normally. This is just to show you kind of how the attachment would work. So game object, and we're going to call it armor equals instantiate resources. Resources dot load, and it is in armor prefabs, and it is the we're going to give them light armor light as game object, and then we're going to say armor dot parent transform dot parent equals game object dot transform. Actually, we can just set it as a transform. So what that's going to do is it's going to create an object called light armor, and it's going to put it on our guy. Now we could even go farther and do this, which is armor name equals cloth armor. Because remember, if you remember correctly, we named it leather as the light armor, so we're going to change that up a little bit. And then we're going to give him a dagger. So we're going to do game object weapon equals instantiate resources dot load, and it is weapon prefabs, and what we call it, melee dagger as game object. And we're going to do weapon dot get component melee weapon dot name equals dagger of doom, and then we're going to say the weapon dot transform dot parent equals transform. The reason we parent it to it is to make sure that I can find it later. So now this may not work. I may have messed this up, and if I did, we will fix it. I had some issues using subdirectories for a while inside the resources. I also saved a note on it, so if I got it wrong, we will fix it. So now we should, if everything went according to plan, when we start the game, he should end up having a weapon and armor. Now, chances are I probably broke it, because that's just the way it works, and I did. The thing you want to instantiate is null, and I figured that was going to happen. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to do a little test, and it's going to be resources no, that won't work. That won't work. We're just going to have to do this a little bit differently. I wonder if I can use standard backslashes. It might not require a backslash in the very front. I think that might end up being what it is, but we're going to try this first. I think the resources, when I do a resources load, it actually automatically puts the slash, so I'm putting 2 slashes, and that's very hard for it to find. And I think that might be what it is. So we're going to try this real quick. I'll put our 2 forward slashes back, because if you put 1, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Well, it's not supposed to work that way. It's a line break. Yeah, that's what I thought. Unrecognized escape sequence. Why it doesn't do that up here, I really don't know, but that's what happens. So you have to put 2 forward slashes. Alright, so we'll figure this out. No. So I need to figure out why. Why it's doing that. see, now I don't understand because I did that. Resources.load, armor prefabs, project, assets, resources, RES sources, weapon prefabs, armor prefabs, weapon prefabs. Resources.load, armor prefabs, armor light, melee dagger. That's what we named them, right? Did we do this wrong, guys? Armor light, melee dagger. Nope, we sure didn't. We did this right. I don't know why it's being so hateful. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so I had the escapes wrong. I couldn't use / needs /. I was close. I was getting there. I got this. Slowly but surely, I did get it. So we have now we have, as you can see, it's cloned, and the reason that I put a name is exactly this. You see how it's clone on the end of it? That means it's a clone of an object I've already created. It's an instantiated object. And that's why I didn't want to name these things the actual name. As you can see, our name cloth and our dagger of doom. It's a one-handed knife and it's a dagger. Our light armor is light, common, and none. That's how we're going. I'm plan on equipping the items to players, and then using that to determine what is put in. Like this one, this light armor right here. This is a good explanation of why base classes are handy. So we have armor light, and in the armor class, we would do something along these lines. In armor, upon start, I would do something like if armor dot subtype armor subtype equals dot light, then we would put on light armor for character if we had a customization. And then and then else, and then why is it doing it to me? Else if armor subtype equaled medium, we would put on medium armor for character, and then else if armor subtype equals type dot heavy, put on heavy armor for character. Now, the reason that we'll probably end up having multiple script files for the different armors, or at least we could do we could do like an array of texture 2Ds to say what light, mediums, and heavies look like to apply to the character. I don't know how much visual representation of armor will be there. Chances are not very many. But that's a good example on why having a base class is handy, because we can do things like this with our different armors, and I never have to worry about it. Like it's just there. It's done. I can decide if it's light, medium, or heavy based on what the user has inputted. I don't have to set it or anything. It's all done. And it would work the same way for the weapons. Like we would attach weapons to players based on what the setup is. Like on a ranged weapon, if it's a crossbow, then we would have a crossbow image. Like for instance, where's my base range class? So if I did something like this, public texture 2D weapon images, and then what we would do is we could then go in here and set them accordingly. Actually, I take that back. We would have to simply do it once. Texture, 2D, and weapon, image. And what that would allow us to do, once this is done compiling, I will show you. What this allows us to do is, if we go into web prefabs and we look at the, I don't have any range ones, so I will have to do, just for the sake of it, we will do these. So it's a public texture 2D. It's not actually a texture 2D. It's going to be a sprite, but for the purpose of this demonstration, this will be just fine. Because the sprite texture 2D doesn't animate or anything, so. And then we can look at this, and as you can see now, it has a weapon image. So our weapon dagger, we're going to give, I don't know, is there a sword-like thing on here? Yeah, that's a sword, but there's no dagger. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this little thing here. It's a spell, but whatever. And then the flail is... oh, there is a dagger. What do you know? Let's go back to that, shall we? Dagger. Dagger. And then the melee flail. There's probably not a flail. Although I said that about a dagger and I found one, didn't I? This stuff came with Daikon Forge. If you're curious where it came from, the user interface tool I'm using. That's a mace. Not really a flail. It's kind of a hammer wrench kind of thing. So we're not going to do anything like that with the flail. We'll put a mace in there, and the axe. And there's a Morningstar mace and the shiv and all that. So now we have a mace and dagger, and as you can see, they have images representing them. What this would actually end up being is a sprite. It'd be an animated sprite that we would put to it, which I don't know. We would end up putting a sprite attached to it, which in this case, weapon sprite, would be something along the lines of, or actually it might be a game object. I won't know until I get the weapons in their format that they're going to be used in, whether it's a sprite sheet or a animation file. So that's how that would end up working. But for the sake of argument, that's how I would end up probably doing the images. And then this little guy, which by the way, the game is not futuristic, so this does not matter. But what we would have is a little point right here on him. And what I would do is I would take my little guard bot and I'd create an empty object, and I would say weapon mount point or something along those lines, and then I would put it over here and I put it down here in his little hand there. Okay, I'd put that in his hand, and then and then what would happen is this would be our mount point. So if I was to mount that image, which really makes no earthly sense at all for me to actually do it because it would look funny, but what we would end up doing is the base armor, base range for where's my melee weapon. So since the dagger works, I would do if variants. Let's see, if knife. So first we would do subtype to find out what it is. Equals dot knife. Then we would start doing knife things, and then we would decide if it's variants, if weapon